All right, so let's take a roll call to open the meeting.
Sure. There's good somebody there. Carolyn Casey, yes.
Robert Worth, yes.
Bob Meany, yes.
Tony Papantonis, yes.
Bob Donahoe, yes.
Michelle Kirkby, yes.
Matthew Eldred, yes.
And Mike Weber, yes. Okay, great. A little late, so the main thing we really want to talk about tonight is the subcommittee. And didn't she make you,
Kristen.
and,
I didn't see you up there. Sorry.
and Bill's muted, so could we say, go back to that?
Yeah,
roll?
Bill Ernie, yes.
Hey, Bill, how are you?
Good.
Okay, so we have a shorter agenda, which is good because we have a later meeting start. So let's start with the site tour that I missed a couple Mondays ago, or last Monday, I think it was.
Sorry, Christine, took your minute to log.
Just figured we just have a quick conversation about like what we liked, what we saw.
Yeah, I'll start. So, thank you again, Robert, for taking us through that. That was really helpful and spending all that
Of course.
time with us. And,
Yeah, in the future, anyone else wants to come, just let me know when.
I think, obviously nice new space is, always makes you jealous when you see it. I think that a couple things that struck me that weren't necessarily top of mind for me before, but the accessibility factor of having everything on that one level and the various things that you pointed out to us that were done specifically to meet the needs of accessibility. I thought that was really important, and got me thinking about what kind of footprint we would need for a school in order to ensure that we could, support that. The use of the space, was really interesting to see the fact that you didn't have like traditional lockers and you kind of had these like nice, clean, wide hallways for the kids to get where they were going. I thought that was really great. You didn't have that lingering factor of kids hanging out and, taking up space on their way here and there. You also have the luxury of all that beautiful outdoor space. So I think that was, it pointed out the fact that you kind of had the best of both worlds. You have this nice, space, but you also have room to grow. You still have all the fields, you still have everything else, and definitely a different situation than at least what our current Dale Street property affords itself. But as far as like amenities and the placement, everything was really well thought out. Obviously really nice, from the projection systems and the technologies that were able to be included, I thought were super impressive as well. And just, again, thoughtful use of space, not enough space to meet the needs for the volume of kids that we're talking about. I think we said that the numbers were not quite it. So ours would obviously look a little bit different than what we saw there. And I know that, I asked about the age of the school, and I think you said that one was built in the 60s, whereas ours is built in the 40s. So, just that question about our ability to, move forward with a renovation with our property as opposed to what they dealt with there. But yeah, it was really nice to see, obviously nice, modern, well thought out security aspects of it, which I think are also important to me as mom, were nice to see as well.
Any other thoughts on the school itself? Or those really good points.
I would ditto everything Kristen said about it. It was amazing the outside space around the school. And there was a whole walkway around the school. So it was a really nice setting. I liked also how the library was like, come in the lobby and the library was there, sort of a welcoming kind of place, right? The lobby and then the library. And of course, everything was new and clean and shiny, and it's on a slab, so there's
It's on a slab, yeah,
right?
it's on a slab, one
Yeah.
level, so there's, all the utilities are in the back of the school.
And utilities
The
were,
maintenance room.
was a great space, sometimes they're so small, but it was actually room for the maintenance people, and it was very quiet, super quiet utilities. And there was a generator outside.
The generator was pretty key.
Yeah.
Was it an emergency generator or something that functions all the time?
Yes, emergency generator, but we've also used it probably 6 or 7 times this year, like just losing power. and
Yeah.
Storms.
So emergency
and
backup.
such, so, yeah, and it, powers the whole entire school, so,
Wow.
for
Wow.
over, 3 days.
Amazing. So you're
But we haven't needed.
natural gas.
Yep, natural gas.
And they have a preschool wing attached to the school, right? And you, I mean, you walk through, which was nice. It had its own entrance. So the kids come in the front, but the parents could drop off the preschoolers and you didn't have to mix in with everybody else trying to walk in. That is.
Having like a more, you know, they have a morning drop off and an afternoon drop off and an
Right.
afternoon pick up,
Yeah,
so.
there was a good thought put into the way it functions. If I'm making sense, the flow of it, you know, in terms of using it every day, I thought.
And you did have that sort of community space aspect where you could close off the school and keep that new gymnasium open for people to access without accessing the rest of the school, which I know was in consideration for the new school plans. I thought it was nice to see that and obviously really functional and again, safe. So that was nice.
Yeah, I think it was thoughtful, but not my thought, obviously, because I wasn't there when it happened,
So we're
but,
gonna give you credit for it.
there was a lot of thought put into like having the space function as a community space.
Yeah.
Beyond school hours, right? Like making it a functional space for basketball and the senior citizen population and just anyone who wants to use that space for anything after school hours or in the summer, it's a functional space for that, and it's able to be sectioned off from the school, so.
And even bathrooms are there with it, so you can
Bathrooms,
section
yeah.
it off and
You're still-
totally could be used,
Yeah.
no one else would be walking down the school halls or anywhere else, and so that was also another thing that was well done.
It's another safety feature.
I like that walkway that actually doubles as a drive.
Yeah.
You can get all the way around the exterior of the building with a vehicle if you need to. The little toggle locks on the classroom doors.
Yeah.
Classroom teacher doesn't need a key. The substitute doesn't have to worry about getting a set of keys. You want to lock the classroom door from the inside. It's locked, easy, nothing to it. That bus drop-off area was really key to keep those two sets of traffic apart from each other. And the community aspect, just like this room is, you get to know secure areas of this building, but everybody can come in here and use this. And I felt, and the other thing is the breakout areas, so like the specialists and the one-on-ones right outside a classroom of like maybe 4 or 5, 3, 4 classrooms.
That's good.
And then an open area that could be shared and could be used, and there could be one-on-one, one-on-two conversations without having to take the child to the other end of the school. You know, you're still within where your class is and whatnot, not a lot of movement there. I thought it was really nice. And that cafeteria was spectacular. That was a really nice setup. Not to mention, it was absolutely immaculate.
Yes.
It was just.
They knew you were coming.
Nothing smelled bad. It didn't smell like budget.
But the time you can save, Bob, it's such a good point, the time you can save, the child was going to be, working with a sped teacher or something, instead of going down a hall and into another room and back and forth, and you see people in the way, you have to say hi, you just walk out and there's this little, it's not huge, but there's a good sized space. And all the classrooms there can use it, and then there's another one further down, so.
And it's all open and visible, and there's privacy,
Yeah.
there's enough room,
Right,
but you don't have to worry about, the door being shut, the door being open, and not having to cover the windows by the doors, because the
Yeah.
doors are solid. They put, and the glass that is not, it doesn't shatter into the tiny little cubes.
The safety glass.
Yes,
Yeah,
stays in.
it's not like bulletproof.
Right.
It's shatter resistant.
Right, so that was a nice aspect. Of it. There's a lot of thought.
teachers had a door outside, and they had the key fob, right? You
Key fob,
said key fob, but only they had it to get in and out. So they have the hall door, but also an outside door.
You don't have any interior classrooms then?
We have interior offices.
Yeah.
But all of the classrooms have exterior doors and they share a tiny vestibule with the abutting classroom. So they both share one exterior door that's only sequence to their key fob. So only 2 teachers have access to each exterior door. I mean, there's definitely downsides, like we were, there's a lot of great things about a renovated building or, but opposed to a new building too, like this year I'm struggling with even just like sinks, like we don't have a lot of sinks in the building because the plumbing wasn't completely redone. So you are kind of, you're the victim of whatever the plumbing was in the past and it wasn't necessarily built for, 2023. So there's things like that that are, they're small, but they're actually big. Like our staff room doesn't have a sink in it right now. So there's downsides too. It's not all perfect.
Yeah, that fob access was a big point too. I know like the town hall, like you guys are going to the fobs up there. So, if you gotta get in, you got the fob on the cruiser, fire apparatus, ambulance.
Yes, all the officers have access.
You're in.
Fobs to all the buildings.
Don't have, because, tense time, fine motor skills, keying, that doesn't function. That's just gone. We won't be able to do it. Bob, easiest, brilliant, easy stuff. Very simple.
I'll add on top of everything you guys said. I obviously never saw the building in 1960s or before it was renovated, but I was impressed by the ability. I saw it on a pretty dreary day. The ability to have natural light, the amount of natural light that was coming in to all of the spaces, I thought was pretty impressive. Again, I don't know what it looked like before, but there was natural light throughout, and especially in like some of those central areas where again, it was just done intelligently. Yes, yeah.
Windows, yeah.
And like higher stuff in between. It was at it must have been the cafeteria.
The cafeteria,
right.
Yes,
really high,
Yeah.
seven windows, yeah.
That's nice.
I thought that was well done.
So even though you're in the center, the cafeteria is, you feel a lot of light, it feels great.
Yeah.
In the
Yeah.
library, I love that too. Yeah.
Clear stories, that was called, like the architectural feature that allow more light in.
Yeah.
Was the emergency generator existing or added?
It was added, and I believe, I'm not completely sure, but I believe it was a requirement of the,
Okay.
new project, and we have like electric charging station, like all that was a requirement, it was non-negotiable.
If the emergency generator kicks in, do you still hold classes?
Yes, yeah, so it kicks in without interruption, so, whether it's in the middle of the day or, in the morning, we hold classes, yes.
So the town loses power, you guys still hold class as such.
Yes.
Run off emergency power, when it was put in with any consideration to the building being used, like you said, the community center for maybe emergency purposes other than school, like.
Not to my
major
knowledge, but
snowstorms that you
in
need
case of
something.
a substantial emergency,
Yeah.
yes, it would be a shelter. With the
You guys know we have that in all of our schools, right? All 5 of our schools have those generators.
Oh, yeah, I did,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay, I just want to make sure you knew that.
Yeah, we don't, that's, so, like, there's been times when our middle school, when we've completely lost power in the town, and our middle school's gone without power for the day, and they've held classes.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, and for those of us, including myself, trying to get there. Anything else? All right, so I'm gonna skip over,
Teresa's online. I don't know if it's,
oh, hi Teresa. Teresa's virtual as well.
Yeah, she's also Zoom, she's out of state.
Thanks, Christine.
Sorry.
So I think it was last meeting, it was asked kind of for a Cliff Notes version of how we got to site selection. So I hopped on the website and just pulled off some documents that I was going to talk to a little bit, just to give you a 3-minute rundown. Sorry, the way it's printed out, it wasn't exactly how I wanted it to be, but, and Jeff, I love your comments on this too, if you don't mind, because you were part of it as well. But generally speaking, so site selection started almost immediately when the architect was hired. And so I would say that was late 2019. I think Arrow Street was on probably in the fall of 2019. And, they ended up being a member of all of our meetings. So the two main issues at the time, like right away, we had to decide upon was site selection and grade configuration. So I won't touch too much on the grade configuration piece, but basically everything that we kind of looked at in regards to site selection was based on either 3, 4, 5, or 4, 5. So we did both kind of, parallel paths until the school committee kind of decided if it was going to be 2-grade or a 3-grade school. So my gut tells me that we'll probably have to do some sort of similar process. But that said, it really got going in January. If you look at that first piece that I've given you, anybody not have these 4 pages here? Okay. And again, they're on the website, but so the January 2020, that top one there, I couldn't find the actual document, but if you look on the left-hand side of that, where it says Dale Street, Wheelock, Hospital Hill, McCarthy Park, Redgate Farm, and then the other hospital campus. These were kind of the 6 sites that were identified by the architect as available, town-owned, hypothetically, where could a school go? Okay, so we kind of started there. The 4 on the right-hand side, the Hospital Hill sledding, the McCarthy Park, the Redgate, and the hospital campus itself were immediately eliminated. I can't give you too much background into why, other than what you see here.
Where's Redgate? Where's it located in town?
Redgate, I don't know, actually. We looked at it on the map.
Philip Foundry.
Yeah, exactly. Phillip Street, that's a governor pad.
Yeah.
So, and again, Redgate Farm, we had federal traffic issues acquired to preserve open space, so that kind of defeated the purpose of why it was acquired, that type of stuff. So I will tell you candidly, all of us were not part of the decision making to get rid of the 4 of them, although it made total sense when explained to us. And my gut tells me that we'll probably go through a similar process here, because candidly, all 6 sites are feasible, okay? So it boiled it down to Dale Street and Wheelock as far as sites that made sense to have a school on, candidly, because both of them already have schools, right? So that's kind of where it started in January, February of 2020. Obviously, in March of 2020, COVID came into the mix, right? So our meetings became virtual. Looking back at all of our meeting notes, the one main meeting we had in like September to vote on the site was actually disrupted we had technical issues. We had to stop and then restart the meeting. It was kind of a pain. But the main thing on the site selection, we discussed it in various meetings. And we were meeting about month to month, January through, call it June, I'll say. And every single meeting notes mentions a talk of site selection. So we did discuss it. I talked about getting community input. So if you look at the June 2020, so the second page that I've given you, there are 2 main, questions, which is funny. We had 854 respondents to the survey that was sent out. 852 and 853, which I think is similar to the survey results we received for our survey. But anyways, if you look at those, the one on the left-hand side shows a graph of where 37% said they prefer the Dale Street, 25%, 38%, and 25% said Dale, 23% didn't have enough info, and 15% said no preference. So, the community at that time, the 850 respondents, preferred Dale. Obviously, that was taken into account, but it wasn't obviously the decision maker for the community at that time. Maybe it should have been in hindsight, right? It's 2020. But regardless, that's kind of like a survey that we got. Not as many respondents as we wanted at that time, if I remember talking about it. That said, we also had a fair amount of people, 37% not having enough information or not caring where it went. So that's kind of a big number as well. That's the majority of the people, if you ask me. So that's kind of, like I said, we were going through all those. And then in August of 2020, in these, if you look at the third slide there, we were kind of given very rough layouts of what it would look like on Dale Street. And this is obviously one architect's version or vision of what the schools would look like. And if you look at the Dale Street sites, all 6 of them have the existing building, it looks like the front facade and the building on the left is existing to remain, right? And Jeff, do you remember the exact reasoning why we kept those front buildings existing to remain. 'Cause I don't, other than it was historic.
I
But-
think people felt strongly about keeping the historic nature of the pillars and having, keeping that there.
That's my recollection as well. So again, this is 3 years ago now, but my recollection is that was kind of important to some in the comment section in the survey, this survey that's from June 2020, all of the comment sections are available right on, if you go to Medfield Public Schools, you can get all this information. But if you go to that June 2020 meeting, that's where you'll find this, and that's where a lot of those comments were, that's historic, we need to keep some sort of that. So that's right, wrong, or indifferent. Those were the options that were presented to us, okay? So what happened also during this time is that our PSR was due to the MSBA. I believe it was due originally at the beginning of September. And then, basically because of COVID and the lack of meeting formally in person, we pushed that PSR submission. PSR is preferred schematic report. It's kind of the first step in the MSBA program, one of the first steps. We pushed that back twice. So I'll also tell you that I don't say it was rushed, but the community felt it was rushed in regards to making the decision on site selection and maybe even grade configuration, but regardless, that was a lot of the comments we had when voting on the actual, we did vote on it at the end of September and into October, as far as a committee to vote for Wheelock School. And again, the comments we got at that meeting, as well as at the Board of Selectmen meeting, immediately following that meeting, was that, the community felt that was the actual decision. So we need to be cognizant that we're getting comments about rushing decisions that are obviously pretty large. This is my takeaways, right? I just think that we need to that was some of the comments we got back. So if you look at the last 8.5 or the 11 by 17 here, this was an evaluation criteria matrix developed by the architects and given to all the members of the committee at the time. And basically, they wanted us to rank 1 through 5, what we felt was, all of these categories: educational, site building, et cetera, et cetera. I can tell you that it came up many times that we said, hey, we don't want to base our decision just on these scores. We'll do it because we're being asked to do it. But that said, we don't want this to be our decision maker. In the end, it ended up matching our decision. So, right, wrong, or indifferent again, as a group, I believe the G1 site, if you look back at the pictures, that was kind of what we went forward with in the PSR study. And G1 was, grades 4 and 5, and it's in the top right. That kind of schematic is what we, went down path on. So anyway, my gut tells, the other problem with the evaluation matrix, candidly, is that, some of the stuff, the educational category, I have no idea. I'm not an expert in the educational category. Like, I shouldn't be voting on that, other than my kids are in school, right? Where we have educators and professionals who are educators, maybe they don't know much about, logistics security, or maybe they don't know, constructions itself, like, I don't know, sustainability. Maybe they're not experts in that manner, but regardless. So that's kind of the Cliff Notes version of how the site selection came about. And Jeff, is that 5-minute summary? A lot of discussion every meeting, I would say, but again, it was just one topic out of 4 or 5 that we went to every meeting. And I'm happy to do this for more major issues. And look at that, like we talked about prior, we're moving forward, but we should at least understand what was done in the past. So if I can add any more color to any major issues, again, these printouts are not the best, but I just took 4 or 5 of them and said, hey, look, this is kind of what we did. So any questions on that? Any questions on how we kind of, yeah.
Just one, and that's on the Dale Street site
Yeah,
physically. is the site itself. I guess I already know the answer, but
Yeah,
large enough to accommodate the needs without going to a second, second floor, and large enough on a first floor basis to give everything that is required for a new school? Or is it a tight fit?
great
It's
question.
hard to tell from tiny little pictures and I have nothing.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, and what's not shown is, so the answer that we kind of concluded at that time is that it was not possible to do on a single floor. At the same time, the Wheelock proposal was not a single story building either.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so, I guess, so that was kind of indifferent, but that's a very good question. The Wheelock site, especially if we were the Dale Street site, excuse me, especially if we were leaving, the old original, pillars and that side of the building. If we were just gonna build on the field in between Memorial, and Dale, it was a very congested site.
Okay.
And that was one of like my main concerns as a construction professional of, okay. It's phased, students are not gonna be, so.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was a much tighter, not a greenfield site, much more impact to people and, I wouldn't say residents so much candidly, because, construction people can keep everything within a fence. I'm not, we weren't overly concerned about that. It was more like,
Congested.
when you're all done, at the end of the day, you kind of had three separate buildings with the existing maybe redone a little bit or just mothballed for the instance, the new school, very little field space, and then, the kindergarten first grade school behind that.
Okay.
But again, both were two-story proposals.
Mike, can I just ask a question so I'm understanding this?
Yeah,
right?
sure.
So on, 4 through 5, B1 and E1,
Yes,
so the yellow is the new.
correct.
And so like on B1, so you were going to make the yellow the new, but that white you're keeping the old?
Yeah, so at that time, that was, that's particular, B1 was, an ad reno. So that was a renovation to existing and an addition.
Okay,
So
right.
yes,
next to it.
that's correct.
So then the next one, the yellow's way over, so were you leaving the white over?
We were gonna leave that and kind of mothball it due to, some concerns in regards to historical, if I remember correctly, that's right.
Okay, but wasn't the plan for it or anything, but.
We were gonna rip down kind of the cafeteria
Yeah,
and all
that
the
part,
area out
right.
back of that, and
Yeah.
everything else was gonna kind of stay
Okay,
a reuse for the town later, which, again,
okay,
in hindsight, may not have been the best decision because then we have an empty building with, who knows what we're gonna do with it. But yeah,
thanks. I'm trying to understand the picture.
so yeah, those pictures are a little small again, and there is more detail there. All the work done for the last school, basically from late 19 through the voting is all pretty well documented on that website. And the website, Christine, is new, looks good. Yeah, nice job. And pretty easy to navigate too. And I have notes and things of that nature that I was looking back on, but really they matched kind of the meeting notes, so it wasn't.
Yeah.
But anyways, that's the Cliff Notes version. All right, so I just wanted to kind of let everyone know, and again, everyone had different feelings on goods and bads and pros and cons, and we don't need to get into that because we're gonna develop our own. But generally speaking, that's what that was. And again, moving forward, if there's more of those items that people want to talk about, I'm happy to dig up the past and spend 5 minutes on just an education on like, hey, what did we say last? Just so we're on the same page. Speaking of, things being on the website, we skipped over, the meeting minutes, but I didn't get a copy of them. So at our next meeting, we'll approve 2 sets of, meetings, if that's okay. All right, so with that, we did that. Bill's gonna be here in a bit. Why don't we get going on the subcommittee?
Sure, yes. We've got Teresa there too.
Hi Teresa, hi Bill.
So the subcommittee met last night. And we've had the survey out for a week, and I want to say that we were very pleased because we have over 800 response. respondents. We decided we're gonna leave it up to the 16th. That's good, so it'll be one more week. The subcommittee is meeting on the 20th, so we wanted to end it on the 16th, and that would give us a few days to each of us look at it, so when we meet, you know, we have time to absorb it.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Can you, Teresa, can you just check the survey? I tried to actually get onto it today. And it said it was closed.
I'm on it now.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, it has 812. Let me reload it.
Okay,
Yeah,
you can?
yeah.
Sorry.
Sunday to time.
Okay,
Maybe it's closed because you took it.
what's that? I actually didn't. I didn't because I didn't get an email. Unfortunately. Yeah, but that's okay.
Wait, did you get my email I sent?
No. Maybe. No.
I sent everyone on the town, on this group an email.
Yeah.
And told you to spread it out and put the link in it,
I
through
never
the
got that.
town, your town
Yeah,
email.
the town, yeah.
I didn't get it.
Yeah, no, I didn't get it either.
Can you open your town emails and see if it's there?
I've got my
No,
open here.
Yeah,
I don't know. If you sent-
Really?
you got it. All right, so
You afford it?
So I got it.
We'll start.
you got it too. Okay, so there's two.
That's, what's your email?
I think it wasn't sent to the group though.
I listed everybody.
Okay.
Okay, so
Check me.
Michelle doesn't have an SBC one, because she has on school committee, so that's the
Oh,
issue.
that's why,
Some
okay.
People didn't get.
But everyone else?
I'll have to look at that.
Okay,
Everyone else was on
did you
that.
get it?
No, but you sent it to me separately.
Yes,
You
right.
knew I didn't get
You
it.
weren't on it, because
Yeah.
I knew you weren't on.
So it came through on the, it's the Google, right?
So I just, I can look right here. So I just,
Okay.
I just put, I drafted a little email and I gave, also attached the blurb for you to put in front of the email and just said, send it to everybody you know.
And how do you figure the email address?
I'm on the one we all have in common, the SBC, Medfield.net. That's what I used. And hold on, I'll look at, I sent ones and I'll see where it is. And I sent Jeff that, right, he got it out right away.
So that's the.
Oh, yeah.
That's the problem, I'm gonna check that. Here's the written.
What do they have for
Well, this one is gonna be the town one,
Yeah.
so it's.
All right, it's still open, sorry. I misspoke. I'm glad I asked that.
Underscore.
So take it.
I will, yeah. I wanted to today, and I'm like, it's closed. And I went through, the school website, and that's why.
Should we get a master email list though? Because am I the only one that doesn't have SBC? You don't have SBC.
No.
You have SBC? Yeah.
I do know.
Teresa, do you have
I don't know
SBC?
where-
Thumbs up, thumbs down?
This one given-
Everybody in the subcommittee does.
Yeah.
Just the interest note?
Yes, you probably have,
Probably
do you have a
add-
Medfield.net for the school committee?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I think.
Christine, is that, can she have two? Can she
I
have,
guess.
she can't have?
Is there a way to
Oh.
email the entire?
Oh, I didn't know
SBC
it was
with all
money.
of the emails underneath it, like an alias for all of us? Instead of each individual person?
Yeah.
It's just Google, yeah. Yeah, no, we can add an email address to the master list.
The regular Google.
Yeah,
Right,
we'll
but
do
so does that, so that doesn't exist yet, no.
I think it does.
I think they created a group, but I don't think this is a thing.
We left communication up to you, we give you the email.
But you probably asked us.
So-
Putting out the meeting.
So then, and then.
All right.
So is there anyone I should send that, who doesn't have the little blurb we wrote? Is there anyone I should give
I
that
think we're good.
to?
I already did it, so. that's why.
Okay, so I'll use your school committee one from now on, sorry. And we just wrote a tiny little blurb saying, please fill this out and would you forward it to anybody you know? That's.
Yeah, no, I got Jeff's email to all the parents, so I took
It was
that.
the same blurb I gave him,
Yeah,
so.
and I made it into a school committee post, so we did post on behalf of the school committee,
Great,
asking people to fill it out.
Yeah.
But I didn't get anything specific.
okay.
Okay.
All right, so, what I have to share with you is we put together, again, it's open for another week, so we don't have all the data yet, but I want to kind of show you where we were. And Bill put together a very nice little summary of it. And let's see, wait a minute, I have to share. Hold on, I opened this now because I was looking for my email. So let me just share. Your screen and that's it. Okay, so first he put a nice picture on it. It wasn't his, and I forget who he said it was. Do you remember? Colin, thank
Yeah, I
you.
think they brought it down.
Pulled up from my former website.
And then he just gave quickly, just to say, it was open to everybody. We had two demographic questions. How did you vote? And what's your current relationship with kids in the Medfield Public Schools? And then we asked everyone to choose the importance of 11 different factors. And this is first the overall result about how many people voted. These two right here, this is yes votes, 29%, and this is the next one to yes. These are the neutral votes. And then this 23% is a no, the flat no, I didn't like it. And this is I voted no because I had some concerns. I'm sorry, that looks so little up there, but and then if people didn't like our statements, they could write in a statement. So these are some of the statements people wrote in themselves. There's 5 little pages of that.
So the I did not vote, that's on that pie chart, that's small.
It's really small.
What was the actual, we know,
Hold on.
how many people did not vote?
You know what? I would have to go into the real survey for
Oh,
one.
that's okay, I just didn't know.
Okay, I can do it after. 'cause I can
Think
flip
about
back.
maybe 5%.
And then these are the factors that we asked about, and purple is 5. It's a really important factor to you. And green is important. Neutral is the yellow, and then it's not important all the way to blue. So when you look at this, you see some columns, the purple is very high. And I want to point out down here, this is educational programming, and this is actually the tallest column, but you see here the number 400 right there? That purple is above 400 and up here is 400, and these purple columns are below it. So it looks like it's as tall as these, but it's actually was the most important factor for the respondents. That's really. And the other ones, of course, that are pretty strong are cost and location. And then you can see some of those are quite as much. State funding was for some groups.
It matches costs, right? That's pretty much.
Just about.
Well, we thought that, and then Bill took this data and he used NPS, which Kristen can explain better than me.
Just that it's Net Promoter Score.
Yeah, Net Promoter Score. He uses that as business, and they find. Do you guys know what it is?
Yeah.
I didn't know till last night.
Net Promoter Score is like a scale of 1 to 5 or 1 to 10.
1 to 10. Yeah.
Anybody who's gonna be, 8, 9, 10 is gonna really promote you. Anybody who's kind of 3 through 7, it's fine, but they're never gonna say good or bad about you. 2 or 1, they're gonna say you stink.
And what he did is he used our questions about how you're connected to the Medfield schools to then set out, if you are connected, did you vote yes or no? And so with that information, initial observation, these are the yes notes over here, and these are the no over here. And you can see that people with kids in school tended to vote yes. People who don't have kids in school, over here, the big gray, tended to vote no.
And Carol, just real quick, those that did not vote, that was a count of 44 out of the 812.
Thank you. I'm at 44.
44.
Thank you. Thank you for checking that.
Yeah.
And then the next piece, Bill did was to sort of look and see, so if you voted yes to know what mattered to you. And educational programming mattered the most to people who voted yes. And location and cost mattered most to people who voted no.
So it's funny on the yes votes, the kind of bullet points you have. Only 6 people out of 24 who said MSPA funding was second most important, but cost wasn't,
Yes.
right? And
Yeah,
then the same thing goes on the right-hand side,
but opposite.
where MSBA funding was not viewed to be important, but cost was being important.
But maybe they don't understand.
Well, that's what we
you know,
thought
it's-
last night. We
That's fair.
talked about that, like,
Yeah,
this
they don't-
doesn't,
If you ask my wife about that, she'd.
yeah.
Sure.
Because we were saying if cost matters to you, doesn't say funding matter, but so we're not sure. Again,
Sure.
this is just what happened. We don't,
Yep.
obviously don't have the information to know exactly what people were thinking or maybe confused about. Maybe there's a reason we just don't understand in the data there that people are thinking. That's something for the communications committee to look into. Historic preservation was not big with either group.
Maybe we can demo the front columns.
No one thinks, and construction impact was not really that big for either group.
That's interesting, because location is like the biggest for the nose, so.
Yeah.
They kind of go.
And you remember, I want to be real clear, we didn't
We didn't define
say,
construction.
we
impact
didn't
either.
say, do you think we need a new school? We asked, how did you vote on that proposal?
Sure.
So this information is only about that proposal.
Mhm.
People could have said no in the proposal, but actually really want to fix Dale.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I want to be real clear about it. In hindsight, I would now like to put in the question, do you think Dale needs fixing? Just the blanket, see what people
Well,
said.
we have more coming up, so that's.
Yeah.
And also on construction impact, usually people think it's temporary, number one.
Yeah.
Number two, it's local. It's just that immediate area. So not the whole town is voting on something. People on the other side of town,
Like,
it doesn't, and construction impact doesn't impact them.
right.
Maybe the
And
children.
and let's remember also on the questions for the considerations.
Oh, sorry, hold on. What's
Wait,
Teresa saying?
Teresa, wait, I'm sorry, Teresa, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, and on the questions for the considerations, we have to be quick not to, we did say SBC evaluates future plans. Because we really wanted to say, okay, kind of where that was. And so as we think about the future, this is the perspective of some of those individuals in those criteria. Of
Yeah.
what's important to them. So I think that this definitely, we're getting to where we want to get more knowledge and we understand, okay, well, we've got to tease some of these elements out more.
And I know, Mike, you mentioned this before at a meeting that, you know, this is, we've got a good response. It's 800. There he is. Hi. You did make it. Excellent.
Let's check out.
What a long day. He went all the way to Long Island today and came back. He's dedicated to this. And I'll let you in a minute, Bill, talk, because it's your work there. But Mike, you had said that, you know, we're gonna find out some information, but it doesn't mean that this is telling us what to do. So I just want to be
Yeah.
clear. We found out some information. It's 800 plus, which is great. But then we were just figuring a minute ago, we figured there was what, 3,500 people who voted in the end, maybe
Sure.
close to 4,000. So again, we're not even half of those who actually voted.
But along those same lines, the survey that I just presented that was, you know, when we were already had funding from MSBA approved, and we talked about, we were asking the community for, you know, basically two huge site selection and great configuration, we had 854 respondents.
Right.
So like the fact that we don't, most people don't even know we exist yet, to be honest with you, you know, and that's okay, but we'll get there. So this is an amazing, A, work, thank you, and B, I'm very surprised at the number of respondents. I think that's awesome. And that's actually telling me that like, hey, people's ears are perked up, which is great. So regardless of what the results are, and again, I agree.
Unless it's the same 800 people who have just always stayed tuned in, that's the fear.
It's more than last time.
Yeah.
More than last time.
I think it's great. I'm surprised.
Yeah.
Well, and then it's more people send out to people that you know. That's the big thing to push it out. We have the question about how did you learn about it? Well, first from the schools, right? Jeff's email was the biggest, but then it was friends and neighbors.
Sure.
And there was some hats, some hometown weeklies, from Facebook, but it was people pushing it out to other people.
So, on the no vote, the construction impact, I read it the same way Jeff did, whereas I read that as impacted to the students and the teachers.
Yeah,
And,
we did too.
but that may not be it. Because when I think construction impact, and Bill, you mentioned to me earlier, it could be there's a crane in the middle of town, who cares, right? It doesn't affect you. Like you just,
Oh, yeah,
you know.
being on the other side of the fence,
Yeah,
industrial and
Exactly.
commercial.
Hi, did you hear?
I did. Maybe just a couple of clarifications. I want to make sure as we use these types of surveys going forward, everybody's kind of understands. I know you kind of touched on NPS. So maybe let me just kind of qualify what it means and what we did. So essentially it takes, Mike, I think you said like,
I did that.
70, yeah. So it's actually, so what you're trying to do is you're trying to measure relative advocacy across a common set of criteria. So we had 11 criteria. So what you do when you do it on a scale of 5 is you take the 5s minus the 1s, 2s, and 3s. Okay, and that gives you effectively a relative percentage. So like that, and I'm not trying to nitpick, but when you said like 6 people said cost, that's actually -6. So that means of all the people that voted, like it would have been maybe like 30% were like 5, so they thought it was really important. But 36% were 1s, 2s, and 3s.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it wasn't important to them. So it comes out as a percentage, and then you talk to us as points. So effectively, you take everything, every vote,
Mhm.
and then you do it as a percentage of 100. And then you take the percentage of 1s, 2s, and 3s, or percentage of 5, less the percentage of 1s, 2s, and 3s to get to a relative score. And what happens is, like, if you vote 5 across all the metrics, everything's important to you, but everything's relatively the same importance. So effectively, if you vote 5 across everything, it just cancels everything out. And same thing we do 3. So what we're trying to do here is get, as people do the radio dots of, all right, more important, less important, right? You're measuring the relative importance of each one relative to each other to kind of get a feeling of what's most important. So, so like that, so when we talk about like a 30-point delta, it's a pretty big delta. But it's so, the MSBA funding for the S's would have, the 5s less the 1s, 2s, and 3s would be a plus 24% of the vote. Whereas the cost would have been a -6% of the vote when you take the 5s minus the 1s, 2s, and 3s.
That's a little important.
That makes sense. And it's not, listen, if everything came out -6, you would say, all right, everything's of the relatively same importance. But when you look at it together across, across all the metrics in this example, like 30% people, 30% of the yes votes thought MSBA funding was more important than cost. And so that it just kind of begs the question like, that's a little weird, because not weird, but you would think that those things would run a little bit more in parallel. And then you got to the exact opposite with like the no votes, that cost was a plus 44, so hugely important. But MSB funding of that's actually like it's double parentheses, so it's -10. So you had a 54-point gap between cost and MSB funding and cost. So again, it's really like it's interesting, and it just kind of raises to my attention that like we need to explain the MSBA process, what it means, how it relates to costs. Like that's a gap that we have to divide on both sides of the fence.
Yeah.
Because it's clear that like that linkage is somehow broken in people's minds, and whether it's because there was conversation last time about the enrollment projections and the MSBA was forcing on us. So people who were no votes felt like that was less important because they didn't like that. Like, I don't know what the answer is. I don't want to even get down the road of hypothesizing until we get some more data. But it's just, but the data would suggest that there's a clear disconnect, and I'll just kind of stop there. And that's all we're doing at this point. We're saying this is the data and trying to get what learnings we can out of it. Sorry, I just wanted to kind of,
No, but I usually, we use that for motor scores of single question, so that's way different than.
Yeah, not like normally in business, you would just say like, how likely are you to recommend X to a friend? And that's a way of companies like then say, like measure against other companies to figure out like how relatively their customer base feels about them. But in something like this, it becomes a very useful tool, again, just to measure relatively across the 11 different criteria, or however we do this going forward, the relative importance of each one to that set of people.
So one of the things that not in hindsight, but now getting feedback and numbers back, do you think could benefit from either a deeper dive or just some more like level of granularity? So we're already like
Let's-
debating the impact.
Yeah, I'd say let's keep going through the rest of it, and then because those are all the questions. I think.
Yeah.
So this is in the graphical form. I just pulled out the snippets, but again, like facility size, right? Like pretty neutral and pretty aligned across both segments. That it's so you would read this as facility size is less important than educational programming, but a lot more important than historic preservation. And same thing. So you go by each one and you can kind of say, all right, location, less important to the S's, much more important to the O's. Cost, less important to the S's, much more important to those. That flips for MSBA funding, right? So what you're trying to do is just measure, again, the relative differences. So like for educational programming, like super important to the S's, not unimportant to those, but just relatively less important to the no's than to the S's. And then, SBAC process, not very important to the S's, relatively more important to the no's. So like for me, it just kind of, it kind of has you immediately like look at the gaps of, when the red bar is going up and the blue bar is going down or vice versa. That just tells me that there's a disconnect, and like these gaps are wide enough where it's not like a data, anomaly or a sampling error. Like this is real, like disconnects.
So there's two here, environmental sustainability, and then there's another, I can't read it, environmental projection.
Enrollment projection.
Enrollment.
enrollment.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Enrollment projections
Got
is
it.
the one way to the right.
Okay,
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't want to read too much until we do more digging.
yeah, sure.
Like I was surprised on the, like with the focus on net zero. I was surprised that, again, relatively compared to everything else, that environmental / sustainability wasn't kind of closer to the, the midline, I guess. Again, not that means it's not important or we should not focus on it. It's just kind of, I was surprised. I would have thought that given the focus and attention that maybe would have scored a little bit higher.
I think people mentally tie it to being more expensive though, so if cost is important to them, maybe that they're putting those things relative to one another a little bit too.
Yeah, possibly, yeah.
I wonder too,
I don't
if
think people
people,
understand what net zero is,
Maybe.
I wonder,
like what that actually means, like when
Yeah.
you're looking at a building, like what does it mean? Do we not have electricity costs with property, and like therefore you should have, spend money up front so that we know, whatever it is, but I just don't think that people understand that.
I'm also just thinking, I wonder if when people taking a survey like this, they feel like they can't give everything fives.
Yeah.
So then they do let something go that are important, but they're like, I can't give everything a 5, so I'm gonna give this a lower score.
Yeah, again, that's fine. All we're measuring right now, like, again, like I said earlier, I'm not saying that's not important.
Yeah,
I'm just saying as people score relatively to everything else.
yeah, they bumped
It
up
was
other
less
things,
important.
right?
You want to keep going?
Yeah.
Well, what's interesting to me on that one as an educator is that if you go up just for 1 second, the 2 tallest columns for the nose don't have anything to do with education, the kids' experience, our school rankings, like it just has nothing. You could put those two columns for the safety building we're sitting in, for the post office, for, so it's just, as an educator, I'm like, I don't know how I could say that about a house, like, it's just,
Again, don't, the bars,
it's hard.
the bars are different. If you have a child in school, like how this will impact like the educational programming is probably the most important thing to you. It's the it's the fourth most important thing to the people who already know. It's not unimportant. It's just, again, relatively, it was a little less important in their minds than some other things, but it doesn't mean it's not important. So I wouldn't read it as like, they don't, I don't know.
Not that they don't care, I'm not saying they don't care.
I didn't want to say like that. I didn't use the word like they when it comes to like the population of people who voted no last time, like relatively, it was the fourth most important thing. So I don't think it's a bad thing at all. I just think it's like relatively, you know, for the kids in school. And I mean, that I don't think that's that much of a surprise. I think it is important to them. It's just.
It's 4 out of 11, right? And of course.
Well, and this is, again, going back to our question, this is what their priorities are for the considerations as we, as the question states, evaluate future plans. So these are the things that are important to them to understand and know more of.
So I mean, the point of view, somebody can say, well, hey, it's really, really important. The cost has to be right first, above everything else. But so long as the cost is right, that's like the next most important thing for me.
Sure.
Like, so again, I think the context is important. But I think it's fair to say like, hey, historic preservation, like across the board, it was less important than everything else. Like that's a factual statement based on the data.
Sure.
Okay. So, okay. Let me just look through. So that was the cut, yes versus no. And then we just cut, like, are you gonna have a child Dale the next 4 years? Are you not gonna have a child in Dale the next 4 years, but you still have a child within the school system? And do you know, did you have children in MPS in the Medfield Public Schools in the past, but no longer do? And you know, so the yes no split, right? You go from kind of 77 yes, 6% did not vote. So I would leave, you know, 17% as no, to kind of 50, 44, 6 for the middle cohort. And then you know, 24, 74, 2 for the people who no longer have children in the schools. And like we talked a lot about this in our meeting yesterday about to be real clear, like at a singular point in time based on a singular plan, like that's how those people voted. It doesn't mean that they don't want a school. It's just based on the plan that was laid forth and the cost that was laid forth. Like that's how, like the data says that vote came in. And but I think you could say, again, factually based on the data, you have like a landslide for yes for people who are in school, and you had a landslide for no for people who no longer have children in school, right? Any election, you get 75-25, like you would say it was a landslide. So it just raises like this, there is this material gap in terms of how people voted last time relative to if they were going to potentially directly benefit from the new building. And so I think about going forward in terms of just everything from communication and education and advocacy, like we just have to be very cognizant of helping people to understand, not just for people who have children in school, but for the entire town. Like, why are we doing this? What's the importance of it? Why does it benefit them? And, you know, why it's important to, you know, for everything, you know, what we're going to spend the next 3 years doing this. Like, so, and again, it kind of cuts the same way as the yes, no, because of the proportion of the votes in terms of what's important. So I just want to flip to the next slide. So it's just another cut, but you largely see the same thing. So if you are going to have a child in Dale, like location is much less important to you than educational programming and the SBC process. And again, cost less important relatively. So, you know, if you have a, for that cohort of people, what they said relatively is like, I care less about the location, I care less about the cost, I want a great school, like, period. And, you know, and go get some MSBA funding too, while you're at it. So there's not, I like, you know, you can, you know, look at this, but I think we've kind of made all the points. You know, but it just kind of like, as you see the bar, it's kind of trend, you know, from educational programming, you know, steps down. Again, it's not for the people who have, just look at the bars, I think it's true. Yeah. So the people who have no longer have children down, but still have children in school, educational programming is still the most important factor. It's just relatively not as important as the people who will have a child in down. So,
I wish we could know, and I mean, I know, right, so there's anonymity, but maybe just another demographic point would be interesting to understand where in the town people live in response to the questions, because if you're out of the school system, you're out of the district, you have no more kids in school, maybe you never did, and location is really important. Do you live in the Dale Street area and you're concerned about not having that school nearby? Do you live in the Wheelock area and you're concerned about having another school nearby? Like, it would be really interesting to understand why location is so important to the families that don't have kids in the school. And I would just love to see that, like, on a scatter graph of like where they're located, because it's hard to, like, that location is very broad, but what about the location is concerning? Is it impact to your neighborhood? Is it, you feel like your neighborhood's losing something? That would be really helpful to
I
dig
think
into.
that's something we get granular as the process moves on, but I can tell you as far as if we knew where these, from my opinion, if we knew where these people lived or everyone who responded lived, I don't think it would matter, because if we had another 600 votes, we have enough votes to tell you that that's substantially the answers are going to never change. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think as we get down the road and we think about from the communications perspective, like, where do we, like, how do we now take the next step?
That's when it
think
becomes
about that,
important, right? The
but
community engagement as far as, hey, we're selecting a site, these are the options, please come discuss.
Yeah.
Right, and be very adamant, you know, about that.
and I know Carolyn covered at the beginning, but yeah, we're gonna leave the survey open because we want everybody who wants to participate. And right, so I as we discuss this, like, this is a preliminary draft of what we've seen so far. Of, you know, roughly 800 respondents. We're gonna leave it open for another week and a half to capture everybody who wants to participate. But like the number of respondents are big enough now, right? When you have a sample of 300, if you got an extra 100 and they voted the complete opposite, like, you're still gonna kind of wind up with the same relative themes that we have here. So, like, I feel good, and same thing, I think if you cut across town, you may wind up with different pockets that kind of skew one way or another. But I think the overall theme, you know, it'd be hard for it to not stay the same, but not saying it could move a little bit here and there, but.
Regarding demographics and, you know, where people live in this town, do we have the percentage of how many children get bused versus walking to school? Wouldn't that play a role in it also?
Like 83, 84%.
Yeah, it was 85% last time we talked.
Okay. So therefore, demographics would not play as large a role, in my opinion, right? Because they're already being bused, whether it's to Dale or to Wheelock.
Well, it sounds like the families with children don't care much about the location,
Yeah, that's true.
so.
Yeah,
Did we get it to anybody like that's on the board for the senior center to distribute to the seniors?
Bob's working on that.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
working on that one.
Because I think that's the demographic we're gonna
did send it
successfully move forward.
to-
We've got to find a way to get that part of our community to.
I sent it to senior center members and asked to help if I push.
But Bob's actually gonna go there, and today, town hall, sent an email to Medfield TV, so they'll, put that up now, sort of a running thing about the survey. And we just keep saying to people, if you just, you send it to 10 people and you tell all of them, please just send it. That seems by the data, because we asked, how'd you find out? That is, that is the way it's spreading. Other than if you have a, really complete email list, like Jeff did, and we could send it out right away.
That's 77% on the last slide. That, I don't know, that's just shocking to me. Like those are people who are going to have kids, at the school. And that's not closer to 100%. Like that's,
What are you talking?
it was on the previous slide. It was like 77% voted
Yeah.
yes, right?
Well, 17% voted no would be the other thing.
Yeah, it'd be, if you thought about it, Robert, it'd be 77 to 17. So whatever that comes out to, kind of like 6 to 1,
Okay.
because the people did not vote, obviously the votes would count, so.
Yeah.
So it'd be like 84 to 16 plus or minus would be the,
Still, it's surprising that your kid's going and you
Yeah,
don't,
it's just, I don't know.
you're
It should
not
be-
interested in 100%.
I would
get
be
what-
close to 100%.
I get
right?
what
It should
you're
be
saying.
closer
You're
to
never gonna get
100%.
100%, no matter what, but on any topic, any question, no matter what, there's 20%. And that's why Bill said 75 to 25 the landslide.
80 to 18.
Okay,
Right, like, but
okay.
again, like when you
That makes
need,
sense.
Yeah.
We
that
need
does
easy.
make
when you need
sense.
66%, right? And like, so like, yeah, you expect that cohort to be, mostly in favor, like never, everybody's never gonna be all in favor. But when you have a cohort voting at 25% or,
Yeah.
relatively 24 to 74.
Teresa's got her hand raised, actually.
Oh.
Go ahead, Teresa, sorry.
No worries. This is actually for Christine. And I don't know if you know this, but have our subscriptions gone up to get alerts from the SBC committee? Thanks. Because I think, at every outreach we do, besides taking in the survey and getting that input, we want to make sure that we're getting our followers up for future outreaches.
Yeah. So that's a good question that I'm gonna piggyback on. We have comments, obviously, that came in, and then we need to discuss. I'm of the opinion we share this.
Yeah.
Maybe not right now, because we should finalize the votes, but I think, that's already public as far as I'm concerned, this. graphic.
Yeah, this is a summary. And when we close.
The
then
preliminary draft summary.
Yeah, and then, so when it's finished, we'll update,
Yeah.
and then we will be sharing it publicly. You said that we did ask Christine, everything will go out, including the comments. We don't have a summary tonight on the comments,
So
there's many.
do we want to share them all?
We have to. We asked and we learned that, so, there. That things, but they all have to be shared. Yeah,
Do you have to redact names?
we can't.
Apparently, we're not allowed to.
Oh, we did say it was anonymous, right?
We did.
Yeah, but-
So there's no names of what people commented on, but I'll just tell you now that there's a couple of people that had a hard time making a comment respectfully.
Well, that's why I asked.
And I actually met with Christine and asked, because we were gonna just black the names, not the comment.
Yeah.
The names, but we can't do that
Yeah.
legally, because
Okay.
of open meeting law in public. So we are checking out, though, that if we do future surveys, that we can put in the introduction, if you list somebody by name, we will, take out the name.
Sure.
And that we're gonna ask Mark Sorrell for an opinion, and so that in future surveys, we would have that ability,
Live and
because,
learn, right? That's good.
yeah.
I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Somebody wanted us to hear the comment and read it, so,
There's,
whatever.
there's
But
there's a lot of comments.
I just know, when things are anonymous, you get on Twitter and.
Yeah, no, that's my point of view. If you have a comment, like, you want to take a shot, like, anybody can come here and do it, like, don't
Yeah,
do it
yeah.
anonymously. And
Easier to do it behind a computer.
Well, that's exactly, unfortunately, but, all right, so we'll publish everything.
We will.
And so my only comment on the publishing of everything, which is great. what about Bill's work with the NPS stuff? Because we were just explained, I had it wrong when we started because I have enough promoter score in my head is a single question,
Yeah,
different
so-
thing. So if we take Bill's analysis, which was well done, thank you again, without any explanation of the promoter score and what it means relative, like,
Right,
that wasn't part of the survey. The survey results can be absolutely shared and should be,
right, and
as
there,
well as the comments.
Yeah.
So
so we, looked at it during our meeting last night, so, this,
Go back to the front page. I mean, we
this,
can build out the, if you think it's helpful, Mike, the explanation on page one. Just,
or.
not the picture though.
I mean, we can just include it in our minutes,
Yeah,
your
But just
presentation.
scroll down just a touch.
yeah, why don't we do that?
Right, because, rankings were done scoring using attritional and technology, what scored was percentage 5 votes, less percentage of 1.3 votes, like.
Yep.
So that's definitionally what is in here.
So then, I mean, again, I don't really care. I just don't. We read it wrong without you in the room.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a lot of smart people in this room. So,
But another
No, I
way to
have-
do it,
good.
go ahead, Teresa.
So just an idea on something we can talk about, because to your point, it's interpretation and context. You know, we're very quick to just give a very flat version. What if we just do a narrative version? That's a video-based version of the results. It's still the summary, but it has the audio to go with it, to go through some of that explanation of what NPS is. To your point, just an idea. We can think about producing that and discuss that as a,
Teresa's angling to get on. Medfield
Yeah.
TV.
Well, like that, so-
I mean, honestly, I think that's a really good way to look at the survey, the way you look at it. So I actually, the way it's presented, I don't care if we just present it. Who cares? Like, that's how we're seeing it. Might as well share with everybody else. We're gonna be
Well,
transparent. So-
this is in minutes anyhow, because we're
Yeah.
having it at our meeting and this meeting, right? So the survey,
We'll give both the raw
itself
data and
would need to be, like, it could just be put on the website,
as a
survey
PDF
results,
printout.
with nothing other than the raw data.
Yeah, that's about like the raw data, like, so all the comments will have to get extracted, and like, Christine, I assume if we got to put the comments up there, like, we gotta show 800 rows of data with every single line item that came in. Is that true?
Yeah. we can put it up as a PDF.
When are we planning on putting this out there?
So, I mean, I put the raw data, like the Excel dump of the raw data, or I don't know if I include the Excel or just the PDF of it, and then,
So the Survey Monkey will create just a PDF of all the results.
it'll create, it actually exports into Excel,
Oh, it does.
is how it works.
All right, then we can just, and we can make it whatever you want.
So the question might be, so we're meeting on the 20th. The small group is, and then we can wait till our next big meeting and then push it out after that, or we can do our summary on the 20th and then push it out.
So I'm hypersensitive to, unlike the narrative, that it doesn't get misconstrued. Like, I think that I tried to make this very balanced in terms of just database. But.
Well, I'm not. What
Yeah,
kind of
the question's
narrative,
how
what kind of narrative do you think is better than the comments, other than that? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I don't. That's what I'm saying. I just want to speak to the data. That's what the data says.
And the methodology.
Yeah, and the methodology. Right.
Okay. That's how I'm looking at it, because that's,
Like, I
It's
think,
very open-ended.
I think we go out and like, same way we communicate the survey, you communicate the results, and say, thank you
Sure.
for taking it. The results can be found here. Here's the PowerPoint. Here's the raw data if you're interested.
And maybe,
They don't send out surveys, have to do with the results.
I'm just thinking that we shouldn't necessarily put all of that data, all of those comments. I don't know what they are, but, and then not have a meeting for months and just what people decide, the narrative they decide to create with that. I know that's gonna happen anyways, but it doesn't, I feel like they should sort of be close together, just in my opinion, versus like a June posting and then we don't meet till September.
Yeah, I mean, you could have like, if we want to, we could do a town hall where we just kind of do the 20-minute blurb that we just did. Or, I mean, people can obviously pull up this video too. So you could say, go to, the whatever today is, June, whatever meeting, starting at the
I'm not,
42-minute mark for the discussion.
it's so early though, too, we're in our group's process. Other than, some comments. It's just, and it's very open question.
Yeah, I just think with all the controversy last time, it's nice to have them closer together, but if nobody else is concerned, that's totally fine.
Are we not, is the big group not meeting?
I was gonna say, we
September?
can actually talk about the next meeting too. I
Okay.
mean, I don't. I'm not necessarily sold on not meeting ever in July and August, just to try to keep them moving.
So maybe let's talk about that path forward, right? So closing the survey on the 16th. I'll cut the date over the weekend.
Yeah,
I'll update this. And then it'll be final. We'll talk about it in our meeting. It'll be public because we'll be talking about it in our meeting. At that point, do we want to post to the website and then, put out hometown weekly patch, same communication message. Thank you for taking the survey. Results can be found here. Including a summary of, the data that came in.
I think we should meet as a group first before we go that route.
Okay,
First one.
so if we don't meet in July or August, we'll be holding it, which I'm not saying
We
it's
can
bad.
meet- We
but
can meet
just-
on Zoom though, right? Like it's nice that we're all here, but we can physically meet on Zoom just to talk about the results and make sure we're all clear on what came in. And I guess my personal concern, a little bit probably with Meredith, is if this is just a raw data dump and people are stopping us all individually and we haven't come together to kind of understand this type of narrative together, then we're not helping move forward in regards to like how we should be understanding the data.
Yeah, I would say like it's,
the data,
other than the comments, which you guys haven't seen, so maybe, so it would be right to go through the comments. Like the themes of the data aren't gonna change.
Right, I don't think we're saying they're gonna change, I just think we should come together as a group.
Before it gets.
Yes, I think it just,
I think that's important. I think it's important
Okay.
step.
Yeah, I just wanna, I think it is also important that like we not wait months.
Yeah,
And I think the
that's right.
timeliness of, thank you for taking it, it's now closed, here are the results.
Well, we shouldn't wait till September to meet again anyway.
Yeah,
No,
no.
and that came up at a quarter meeting where people had said maybe we shouldn't meet in the summer, that's why I brought that up.
I mean, we're just seeing this now too. I mean, as I reread this, I'm gonna think of more questions to ask that we should probably be addressing.
That makes total sense. Yeah.
Christine, is there any, there's no rules still about not meeting virtually, we can do that, right? Yeah. Why don't we meet virtually towards the end of June? End of June? Well, if they're all done with their survey on the 20th. We want to be timely with getting it out to everybody. I mean, I would say, or the week of July 4th, or whatever, I don't.
That's about.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's why I said the end of June.
No, I don't want to speak about that. There's no reason why we all can't meet on the 20th of June, like it's just gonna wrapping up at that point, like.
What are?
Yeah, we made a date ourselves, the 20th, and you just want to make it a full.
Is
meeting.
it virtual or here or what?
Whatever you want.
We meet in the warrant committee room, but we can meet here.
What time are you guys meeting?
We meet at 7
20th.
on the 20th. This is just what we agreed to the other day. I need to stop sharing, but I can't.
I just, like, let's just,
That
Yeah,
makes sense.
I agree.
Combine it.
okay. Like that, there's not like, other than the comments, which everybody should take a read through, it's
Yeah.
like. The stuff in here is not gonna change,
Right.
and I don't say that like disrespectful, people haven't voted yet, but it's just like, there's enough of an.
Right, no, I
Number,
understand,
so that's.
Okay, I'll meet them at that time.
I'm sorry, I got distracted for a moment. So what was
Six,
this?
we'll have
crash dinner
a
party?
yeah.
You're crashing the party. Okay, that's fine.
guys want me to send that out again, or? Pretty good.
The survey,
If we send a second reminder, when we send it.
that'd be awesome. Just tell them it closes on, what date does it close?
15th it closes. That would be great.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Good.
All right, so we'll make the 20th full meeting. We'll meet here, or are we doing virtual?
Still here, as long as it's open.
Okay,
I mean, if it's at night, that's fine.
You said that, the one.
There's a one meeting on that, so I won't be there, but I mean, just, I don't, if people wanna watch or whatever, I don't know, it just.
Are we more important?
Should not be.
Are we more important?
The warrant. No?
That's what I-
Well, there-
Oh,
well,
wait a
no,
minute.
I haven't seen the
Oh, wait a minute. warrant
What about the
committee
21st?
meeting and
I can't meet people on the first, but I don't know. There's one person's gonna, people are gonna miss me.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine.
Okay.
I did
the 20th.
Want to do the 20th high school level?
High school library? Oh, that'd be great, is that? Okay, right. The high school library on the 20th,
7 P.M.
7.
Okay.
And we'll just all discuss the data and
And that'll be our agenda.
Yeah.
that'll be our, and just go through it.
Okay, very good.
We'll set that stuff.
No, there'll still be a remote option, right, on the 20th, because I'll still be remote at that
Yes,
time.
Yes.
it's a remote option.
Yeah, definitely, Teresa's not there. I'm wondering this, should we, before the 20th, make it so you can see the comments?
Yeah, if you don't
Read
mind
it
sending us
ahead?
the PDF, just so we
Yeah.
can read them and come prepped with.
As per the agenda, you know?
Yeah. So
Yeah,
we don't have to-
So it should be
But
in
It's gotta
the,
be public anyway, so you might
Yeah.
as well send it in.
because there's a lot of comments, there's a lot of scrolling. there
Sure.
to do. So, yeah, okay, so that's, we're closing the 16th.
Isn't that a Friday?
The agenda will be posted on,
Monday is the holiday, so we.
Okay,
Wait,
Is that
Monday's a holiday?
Juneteenth.
So we can't.
so
we have 48 business.
do you need one of us to come over for the survey to make it into the PDF? That process, just send it to you, you can put it in, and then you can.
I can PDF.
Yeah,
And then you
can get it to it by the board.
You just have to get in everyone's packet in order for them to see.
When's the packet go?
It'll be, we can post it with the agenda on the board.
Yeah, but that's before it
We don't have a
closes.
survey.
Right, that's my concern with timing.
You know what, maybe the thing to do, it's only 2
If we,
days.
if we finalize on the 16th, it's too late or
It's too late.
Because you
I
might
don't
have
know
two
if
business
that's
days.
able to get that together for you,
get what?
Could it make sense to
to
do
post it with the agenda pack.
it the following?
It's gonna be over the weekend. I'm
Following.
Yeah.
Okay, no, I was gonna like,
So otherwise, I would.
I was just trying to, if it just came in a
It
PDF.
makes sense just to meet the following.
Why don't we do, if we
the
meet
survey
virtually
budget is.
too, I don't know, I can be here, but I'm just saying if it's easier for people. What is the new preference? Your preference to just wait another weekend and meet?
Oh, it just sounds like this, it's kind of tight with the holiday. like this.
Yeah, so now I really think you want to look at it before we sit and
Yeah.
discuss it.
I-
A
I-
100%.
But if it ends on the 16th and then there's a weekend and a holiday, I don't see how we're gonna get it to you in the PDF form in time for the 20th. This is.
Right, logistically not possible. What about the 27th?
I'm
Would you want to
confused.
meet your,
Okay,
make
so
your meeting the
the
27th?
survey ends on the 16th.
Yes,
Then you have to put it in the PDF form and then share it with everyone so they can look at it.
Yeah.
But the agenda has to be out on the 14th. And so any materials you would send would need to be attached already.
you can't send materials after the agenda.
No.
No, you
You don't like to do that? You don't like.
Can do that, we will just email it to you, you can email it off to the committee when you finalize it in PDF on the 16th.
Okay.
Send it out to everybody, get it out to me, I just probably won't get it posted for the agenda, so I get everybody back on the office.
And you're okay that it doesn't go with the agenda, then that it comes later as an attachment?
That's fine, we don't,
Okay, now,
doing that.
we,
but
the small subcommittee won't be meeting, so we'll all be there.
So do we want to, what if we propose the 27th?
So-
It's gonna come
So
out there
can we,
cleaner.
I'm just wondering if maybe the subcommittee should meet on the 20th, and then, like you said, like, we then are able to package this, send out the summary and the PDF and the comments to everybody for either meeting 22nd or the 27th.
Yeah, I think
That's
that's
fine.
Yeah.
27.
What works better, the 22nd or the 27th?
27.
27th.
And we'll keep the 20th.
27th? All right,
Okay.
27th at 7.
Sorry. I cannot do the 27th, but I don't mean to be.
What day that week can you do
Okay.
26, 28?
Probably the 26th, I'm on vacation, sorry, on the 27th.
26.
26th? 26th at 7. Going once,
All right. so
high
that's-
school library or here? Are we back here?
Can be here.
Wait, long.
Here.
You can be here on.
We can be here, okay, 7 p.m. the 26th, public safety level.
Okay, and then we'll go back and keep our 20th, and that will give us time to get it all ready for you, and it will get to you before.
And we'll stay.
Yeah, if it's the 26th, if you can get it to us.
Yeah.
The evening of the 21st, then we can make sure the agenda with all the links, so that it's posted all at the same time, gets out 26th morning. Sorry, the 22nd morning.
Just as a radiation, that you guys as a subcommittee have done, that's a lot of work. I really
Yeah, great
appreciate it.
job.
Thank you so much.
Nice.
Excellent.
All right. So that, we're already into my last, my second to last, future meetings on, so we have one scheduled for the end of June now. What does everyone think during the, I mean, I know we're gonna have vacation, but we're gonna have a quorum, but we won't have full participation through July and August. I'm happy to meet, during those times.
Well, Mike, what are some of the upcoming topics that you're?
Yeah, so that's the
anticipating?
other thing, so. Not a ton, so generally speaking, we have only a little bit of time until MSBA gets back to us relatively, you know, they come back in. October, November,
Always last one.
even August last time.
So we definitely still at some point want to have the, Jeff and Steve presentation.
Right, so we pushed that off, just end of school year stuff.
Yeah,
Steve got injured, Jeff's been busy, I think that could probably wait until the fall, but I'm happy to do that. Maybe summer's better for them to do that. Jeff, that's up to you. We talked about kind of the educational plan. Kind of talk, that Michelle had brought up originally.
Yeah, I'll talk to Steve about it and see kind of, whenever you guys have a meeting, we'll try to figure out a schedule. It's this, I mean, I'd like to do it in the fall, but. You know, folks want it in summer, we do it in summer.
and then Hilly, we were gonna maybe invite to do like the sustainable, the energy committee.
I feel bad in the summer, but.
Yeah.
If you can wait till fall, because,
I think that's probably better.
I would just like to do it. Cause I just think we should do it earlier in the fall, because I think.
It's obviously very important.
Yeah,
yes,
like
so
I just.
early in the fall would be great. So
Yeah, like
Medfield Day,
September.
we were talking about getting a booth.
Mhm.
So it'd be good to spend some time talking about what we would like to do at that booth to promote our work. So that would make sense to talk about in July.
That's true.
Yeah.
What else?
So do we want to try to pick a July date now, or are we waiting?
I was hoping to pick one.
Okay, so let's,
So because of the summertime, what are people's thoughts on meeting virtually, like earlier afternoon or something like that, like this? I know it's work day, so some people are gonna say hard no, and some people are gonna say that's easier, but
Like how early?
it could be 4 o'clock for one. Yeah. I'm just, you know what I mean, I'm more thinking like towards the end of the workday.
Yeah.
Candidly, I don't live in Medfield during the summertime, so it's a commute for me, and it is what it is, but I'm happy to move the commute if everyone else wants to move personally.
No, virtual.
I'm flexible.
Yeah.
Virtually, okay.
all right, week of July 17th. This is the starting point.
Picture, other than that, I make it out of it.
Well, it could be any day that week.
No, that, it's worth trying.
She's busy, yeah.
So, yeah, the 18th just doesn't work for me because I have another board meeting at 5.
19th,
Any other day is work.
Shoot for the 17th, because I think I'll be out. I don't know what time they let you out.
I feel like you're jinxing yourself.
You're in Dedham.
Yeah. I was on a week long.
I think you guys, I think you guys were meeting before, I think they cut early.
17th,
So-
Adjourned.
If you can do that, then I'm still away that week, so.
okay. All right, do you want to do the week after, or the week before?
Again, I think we'll probably have other conflicts too.
Let's do the 19th, what about the 19th? One's
Your way that was planned, right?
Oh, this will be virtual, right? You're talking-
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
Good.
yeah.
And that's fine, like I said, but inevitably, Pete Thomas not gonna be here, so if we did on the night, on,
The 19th virtual.
Can I just ask, is everybody around the week of the tenth, just to try? Is there anybody away the week of July tenth, any day of that week?
I just don't know if I'm on it.
Here.
Where I am.
Just the 10th.
So everybody?
I leave, I leave.
We,
at 12.
we, have a meeting on the 11th, the subcommittee does.
Okay.
Want to
So
build on that?
build on that or pick another,
What would you prefer, 10th or Monday, 11th?
Yeah.
11th, that, what time is your committee? It's
7.
17th.
we meeting, what, 4?
You want to move it up?
Want to
in
do 5
May? Wanna
p.m.?
do 5? 5 on
We
the
can do it
11th?
in person, you guys are gonna meet in person, I mean, that's fine.
Yeah, we're gonna be there.
5 o'clock on the 11th,
Yeah.
that works,
All
okay?
right, 11, the 11th at 5 p.m.
So we have our agenda set for the next one. I guess for the only other thing I'll put on the 26th agenda, and Meredith, obviously, it's something that I'm just thinking, obviously, we'll talk about the survey results will be kind of the main topic. Any other agenda items, so like the 5-minute blurb I did on site selection, is there anything like that? Not to fill time, but to give some background and color where we stood last time, just let me know ahead of time, and I'm happy to add it on. Okay, or any other agenda items that you're thinking about? Survey results kind of back me up here. At some point, we really got to talk to Mather and his cronies and his water committee. We really need to start thinking about costs and money. That is going to be a driver for this project. It just is. And at some point, this town needs a school, and I'm incredibly optimistic that this group will get it done. Regardless, the town needs to pay for it somehow, starting immediately, in my opinion, so.
I know Steve talked a little bit about it and this like idea of maybe that's what Hingham's doing or other towns or other options, but.
Yep.
I'm happy to participate as appropriate, but I think that we gotta start kind of pushing together as a team with the warrant committee in that direction, at least to start understanding what options look like. And because if you just draw a map between today and the next town meeting, reality is if you want to make any progress, you probably need to start kind of like now. So I think it's really important, even if we don't get it done for this year, at least we have.
Oh, it'll be
to
done
see-
for this year.
What's that?
It'll be done for this year.
What's that?
I'm already meeting with the chairs of the warrant committee to put together a plan,
Okay.
to do that, as we talked about. So.
Yeah, I don't think it's our group's decision, but I think we need to help in any way we can.
One suggestion was just to make it a little less personal in Medfield was to go for surrounding towns, what's been built in the last 5 years, what the cost, how big, make a little chart just to get people in the ballpark for understanding what is happening with schools right now. So like the size of the school, the cost, and when it was finished, or, you know, you got some that surrounding, and then we start looking, you say, that sounds crazy, and then you say, well, here's other projects.
Mhm.
And where are we in the middle, right? We're not at the top, we're not at the bottom, kind of thing. Because some, you know, people don't have any sense of what schools are costing.
Teresa, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just, something to consider maybe for our next agenda or the July agenda is how to kind of organize ourselves around some of these themes and topics that we know that we need to do more educational outreach, and whether that's, obviously we'll be doing other surveys, but, articles that we can write to put up on the website, some of the things, those are things that our communication subcommittee has said that, we probably, we need to be talking about. So maybe think about how we're going to have ourselves organized, kind of going forward around some of these topics.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, thank you. we could probably put our heads together on it a little bit.
Looking at the time, it's 9:20.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
we have no questions. Chris is the only remaining member. If you want to,
No, I mean, the only reaction that I thought I would just share is, it was really in response to your question, when you said, is the Dale site too small? If you were to go and look at the designs that were submitted by all the other architects who applied, who submitted an RFP, there were some very interesting designs there where you could see that this designs weren't necessarily, the space wasn't necessarily too small. And I also think that we got into a bit of a conundrum by, with the grade configuration. There was so much time spent on the grade configuration. And my recollection is, and I would love to go back and look at some of this, is that so much, because we submitted both a 4-5 and a 3-4-5 option, that the architects really had to make sure that it was doable for both. And what happened was, there were a lot of designs that ended up being a lot more focused on the 3-4-5. And so when you were looking at that as part of the site selection, you were sort of overwhelmed by building because it had started with the 3-4-5. I would argue that it would be really good to make do the grade configuration first and have a grade configuration decision first before going to the site selection. Then 25 the site a lot better.
yeah. I mean, from my recollection last time, it was certainly a school committee decision as far as grade site selection. But also, we backed them up on 2-grade. Even though the preference was 3-grade, it was just much more money and we knew that we couldn't probably pass that.
Okay, if I can ask you a question, I'm sorry to go back because I just couldn't get off mute soon enough on the car. Like, as I just look at like a map of town and town space, stuff like that, was like Metacomet ever considered or not?
Metacomet, is that, no, that was.
And the tennis courts and the baseball fields are.
I just went to draw simple polygons to measure site size, and it's actually like fairly large site. I'm just curious if it was ever looked at.
I don't know. That's your copy.
Thank you.
It wasn't listed there, let's put it
Okay.
that way.
Thank you.
I don't, you own all that land, right?
It's under the care custody of Parks and Recreation, but I don't know whether or not it was taken strictly recreation of the Article 97 conservation land.
Yeah,
I have to check.
I think that was the problem with McCarthy, is that it's under Park and Rec, goes Article 97. Now it's like a hard no with that. Yeah. All right, at this time, I'll,
Motion to adjourn. It's not.
let's do a roll call.
Bill Warren, yes.
Carolyn Casey, yeah.
Robert Worth, yes.
Bob, me, yes.
Jordan Belvin, Jordan.
Bob Donahoe, yes.
Michelle Kirkby, yes.
Meredith Chamberlain.
Natalie Aldridge, yes.
Mike Weber, yeah, Teresa,
Teresa James, yes.
thank you for joining us.